I'm David Turner, and I'm talking to you guys on MTBR through Interbike 2010. Here we are in Las Vegas for the last year, and last time in this one little space we got. But we're going to run through the line right now. We're going to start with the Flux. In the past 2 years, it's been doing really well for us. It's not really a race bike, although a lot of guys do longer races, you know, endurance type race with it, or just long days in the saddle. Great, I don't know what you call it, light trail / cross country bike. We run them with 120 millimeter travel fork. The rear suspension's got 105 millimeters of travel, or just over 4 inches. Nothing has changed on the rear suspension except that we're now telling the truth about how much travel it actually gets. The last 2 years we've claimed 100, and it's actually gotten 105. But we've wanted to basically keep the bike in the cross-country realm, but now with the prevalence of 120 millimeter forks and everybody running them on this bike, we thought we'd just say, hey, there's a reason that it really rode so well, and it felt like it had more than 4 inches of travel, because it did. No big changes to the Flux this year. For this market, we felt that it was doing a really good job. Still has an 1.1" head tube on the shorter travel forks, the speeds that are ridden on this bike, etc. It's working out fine. We did change the seat tube gusset on all the models by putting a dip in the top of it, if you will. We create a bit of a smile here, which spreads the load from those times when you don't quite get out of the seat, when you hit a big G out or a drop off or whatever. So we spread it over to the sides. It's a little bit structurally better than the old taco shells, what we called it. The other thing is that people did not like the unfinished look of the taco shell in the past, where it was just a piece of sheet metal with an open bottom. I always liked it. It did its job, but people expected a little bit more, so we gave that. The other thing we've done is we've created a bit of a bow in the chainstays so that the narrower Q factor cranks, like the double X with the 156Q, will hit. So just a real light bending with we didn't kink the chainstays or anything like that, but we just did light bow. This year, we're also bead blasting, anodizing, then laser etching the graphics in. The Sultan, not new for 2011. We've had the DW Link Sultan for 2 years now. The last couple of years, the bike's had a 70.5 head angle with a 120 millimeter fork with an 1.1" head tube, compatible head tube. This year, we've changed the head tube size. It's now an oversized head tube. You run the zero stack on the top and the 44 XX on the bottom. This allows you to use a tapered steer tube fork. Some of the fork makers are claiming a 20% increase in stiffness at the crown because of the junction between the steer tube and the crown being much bigger in diameter than the 1.8". When you have a fork as long as a Sultan does from the headset to the axle, that does make a big difference in the rocks. Especially, I notice it the most on coming into a turn that's rough, either big braking bumps or with rocks, and you got the front brake on. The stiffer crown steer interface definitely adds rigidity you can feel. We also slacken the head angle out to 69.5, full degree slacker. I think that this class of bike, which is definitely a trail bike, this is not a cross-country race machine first and foremost. It is a trail bike, and I wanted to get the head angle to closer to being able to keep up with the rest of the chassis. In the past, the 2 years of production that this bike here, we found that the rear suspension and the rigidity of the frame would pretty much push over most of the forks on the market. By going to the tapered steer compatible frame and slackening it out so that the fork is kind of aiming more directly at the hits, we're hoping to get a better balance out of it so that the frame's not overpowering the forks that are currently available. The 5-spot. We introduced this bike in 2003. At that time it had 5.1 inches of travel, 69 head angle, 13.25 inch bottom bracket. Probably one of the more balanced. By today's standards, it's a a moderate trail bike. But in 2009, we introduced the DW Link 5-spot, 140 millimeters or 5.5 inches of travel. Still carried on the 69-degree head angle, and the bottom bracket was up to 13.4. Well, after a couple of years of production, people changing the way they ride, trying some different stuff, for 2011, the 5-spot gets a slacker head angle. It is now 67.7 degree head angle, optimized for the 150 millimeter travel fork. And like the Sultan, it has the zero stack top and then the 44 XX on the bottom headset. It also comes in black anno laser etch, but in this light gray is the alternate color, which I think looks pretty sweet. One thing that I want to point out is that we have now separate cable guides for the remote dropper posts that are becoming so prevalent on the market. We put the cable guides underneath the top tube. You'll be able to do that on the fly and look all clean. Here's the DHR. It exists. Check it out. After a whole bunch of development and working out the kinematics to get the shock as low and as far back as possible, and still have good tire clearance. This is a huge tire. It's like 27 inches in diameter, and we still have 10 millimeters of clearance between it and the linkage. Obviously, no normal person would run a tire this big on a muddy day, so I don't want to hear about any sort of mud clearance problems. It isn't going to have any. And in the world of mud, we have all the pivots they have grease fittings right there. It's the same custom-made stainless steel threaded in grease fitting that we use on all the other pivot systems on all Turner bikes. This one gets it on each pivot, so you can actually blow the grease right through, push out the water, keep the water out of the bearings. Bearings don't rust, all's well. Dave Weigel and I, we certainly talked enough about this. Phone company should be sending us a thank you at Christmas time. The linkage on this bike, a lot of thought went into it. We wanted to make sure that it was wide enough to fit a great number of shock brands and spring diameters. I did not want to pigeonhole this bike as only a coil or one brand of shock. Obviously, we do spec it with a Fox DHX RC4, but for those of you different parts of the country or the world or different, opinions on suspension, this will take it. And modern suspension dampers easily work on all these as far as the range of adjustment, etc. Very neutral linkage with, obviously excellent pedaling. We started testing this bike, the first ones, if you will, the betas of the pre-production bikes up at Whistler. People were talking about how neutral this bike was and how well it would corner. You didn't have to try to figure out where to place your body on it to get the thing to stick in turns. So we really nailed it. It's got a 13.4 inch bottom bracket height with 210 millimeters of travel. And then the chainstay length, 17.4. And the head angle is just a touch over 63. So this geometry seems to be impressing everybody that comes off of different brands of current downhill bikes. So one thing that I've always tried to do, designing the DHR, is make it so that whatever brand the rider's coming off of, they don't have to relearn a new bike. This bike is what I consider a neutral bike. You just get on it, and within a couple of runs, your time should be coming down. And last but not least, the RFX, another prototype. Check it out. It exists. There's actually two others in the trailer right now. They're in Boulder City if anybody wants to go out there. The shop's got the key to the trailer, and they're allowing people to ride either the DHR or the 5-spot or one of the two prototype RFXs on the dirt right now. 6.5 inches of travel, 66 head angle, 17-inch chainstay. Bottom bracket's right at 14 with a 680 millimeter diameter tire, which still I'm not real happy with. That's why it says prototype. the form of the bike, when it goes into production sometime next year, will look like that. It's going to look very much like a Sultan, a 5-spot, in that family. That's the full line. Thanks for listening to me chatter away, and hope you had fun. Bye.